He slammed the laptop shut, then snapped it open again, breath caught in his throat as the screen flickered back to life. The billionaire's fingers trembled over the trackpad. "Play it," he muttered to the empty room, his voice sharp, urgent, almost afraid of what he might see. The security footage resumed, grainy night vision filling the dark study, and the moment unfolded that would refuse to let him sleep again. Earlier that day, he had sworn he was done watching. He had told himself the cameras were only there for emergencies. Protection, not obsession. But something pulled him back now, a tightening in his chest he couldn't explain. The timestamp blinked. His son's bedroom, 9:47 p.m. The boy lay motionless on the bed, the familiar sight twisting the man's heart the way it always did. Once that bed had been a place his son barely touched, too busy running, laughing, living. Now it was a prison disguised as comfort. The billionaire leaned forward, jaw clenched. "Just sleep," he whispered, as if the boy could hear him through the screen. The door opened slowly. The maid stepped inside. "Why are you in there so late?" The billionaire snapped at the screen, anger flaring out of nowhere. His hand curled into a fist. He had hired her 3 weeks ago because she was quiet, because she asked for little, because she looked like someone who wouldn't cause trouble. Quiet people, he had learned, could still hurt you. On the footage, she closed the door behind her with care. She didn't turn on the overhead light. Instead, she crossed the room softly and pulled a chair close to the bed. The boy's eyes shifted toward her. He didn't smile. He barely ever did. "Hey," she said gently. "It's me. I know you're awake." The billionaire froze. She was talking to him, not checking vitals, not adjusting pillows. Talking. "You don't have to answer," the maid continued, her voice low and calm. "I'll do the talking. You just listen, okay?" The man's throat tightened. "That's not your place," he whispered angrily, even as he kept watching. The maid reached into her apron and pulled out a worn paperback book. She hesitated, glancing at the boy's face. "I found this in the library downstairs. I hope it's all right. I used to love this one." She opened the book and began to read. At first, the billionaire scoffed. Reading? That was it. That was what had made his hands shake. He leaned back slightly, irritation simmering. Doctors read to his son. Therapists talked at him all day. Words hadn't fixed anything. But then he noticed the boy's eyes. They weren't empty. They were following her, tracking each word like it mattered. The maid paused. "If I'm boring you, blink twice," she said with a small smile. The boy blinked once. Slowly, her smile widened. "Good. I'll keep going then." The billionaire's breath hitched. He hadn't seen his son respond like that in months. Not to him. Not to anyone. The story continued, her voice steady, warm. Every few lines, she stopped to explain something, adding her own thoughts. "I always like this part," she said softly. "It's where he realizes he's stronger than he thinks. Funny how people never see it themselves." "Stop," the billionaire whispered, his chest aching. "Don't fill his head with hope." On the screen, the maid set the book aside and gently picked up the boy's hand. She moved it slowly, carefully, stretching his fingers one by one. "I know it hurts," she murmured, "but just a little. I promise." The billionaire surged to his feet. "Who told you to touch him?" he barked, fury flaring. This was exactly why the cameras were there. But the boy didn't pull away. His fingers twitched, just barely. The maid noticed immediately. Her breath caught. "Hey," she whispered, voice trembling now. "Did you feel that?" "I think you did." The boy's eyes glistened. The billionaire sat back down hard, his legs suddenly weak. His heart pounded against his ribs. "That's impossible," he said aloud. Doctors had said not to expect movement. "Not like that. I'm not trying to fix you," the maid said softly, almost like she knew someone was listening. "I just don't want you to feel alone." The words hit the billionaire like a blow. Alone. That was exactly what his son had been. Surrounded by staff, equipment, money, and yet completely alone. The footage jumped forward. Another night. Same room. Same chair. "Guess what?" the maid said brightly. "I argued with the cook today. He said no dessert for you. I said he doesn't get to decide who deserves sweetness." She laughed quietly, a sound so human it hurt to hear. The boy's lips twitched. The billionaire covered his mouth with his hand. "When did that happen?" he whispered. "Why didn't you smile for me?" On the screen, The maid leaned closer. "I know you're angry," she said gently. "You have every right to be, but you're still here. That counts for something." The boy let out a small, broken sound. Not a word, not quite a sob, but something real. The billionaire's eyes burned. He remembered standing at the foot of that bed, stiff, afraid, saying all the wrong things. He had talked about recovery plans, money, specialists. He had never said, "I'm here." The footage continued. Night after night, the maid reading, talking, stretching his hands, telling him stories about her day, about mistakes she'd made, about people she missed. "I had a brother," she said one evening, her voice barely above a whisper. "He used to hate when I talked this much, but he listened anyway." The billionaire leaned closer. "Brother," he repeated softly. On the screen, the maid swallowed. "He couldn't move much at the end," she continued. "Everyone treated him like he was already gone. I promised I wouldn't do that to you." Tears slid down the billionaire's face before he realized they were there. "This is why," he said hoarsely. "This is what I missed." The video ended. The screen went dark. The room felt unbearably quiet. The billionaire stared at his reflection in the black screen, seeing not a powerful man, not a protector, but a father who had been watching from behind glass while someone else reached his son's heart. And for the first time since the accident, he was afraid not of what the cameras might reveal, but of what they already had. The next morning, the billionaire didn't go to the office. That alone unsettled the entire house. He stood outside his son's bedroom door for a long time, his hand hovering inches from the handle. He had faced hostile takeovers and courtrooms without flinching, but this door terrified him. Inside, the maid was adjusting the curtains, letting soft light spill across the room. She turned when she heard him. Her face went pale instantly. "Sir, I can explain." "I know," he said, his voice low. "Too calm. That's why I'm here." Her hands trembled. "If I cross the line, I'll leave." "I never meant to." "Why didn't you tell me?" he interrupted, stepping closer. "Why didn't you tell me what you were doing with my son?" She swallowed hard, eyes flicking to the boy on the bed. "Because you never asked," she said quietly. "And because he needed someone who wasn't watching him like a project." The words stung because they were true. The boy looked between them, his eyes wide, confused. The billionaire noticed it now, the way his son was present, alert, alive in a way he hadn't been before. "I saw the footage," the billionaire said. The maid stiffened. For a moment, shame crossed her face. "Then you know I wasn't hurting him." "No," he replied, his voice breaking. "I know you were doing what I couldn't." Silence filled the room. Heavy, fragile. "I thought money could protect him," the billionaire continued, his eyes never leaving his son. "I thought cameras could replace trust. But all they showed me was how absent I've been." The maid's eyes glistened. "He listens for your footsteps," she said softly. "Every night." The billionaire's chest tightened. He moved to the bed, slowly, like he was afraid of spooking something delicate. "Hey," he said, crouching beside his son. His voice wavered. "It's me." The boy's fingers twitched. "Talk to him," the maid whispered. "Not like a patient, like your son." The billionaire swallowed. "I'm sorry," he said, the words raw and unpolished. "I should have been here. I should have said that sooner." The boy's eyes filled with tears. "I was scared," the billionaire went on. "Every time I looked at you, I saw the accident. I thought if I stayed distant, it wouldn't hurt as much." A tear slipped down the boy's cheek. "I was wrong," the billionaire said. "It hurt anyway." The boy made a sound then, faint, broken, but unmistakable. The billionaire froze. "Did you hear that?" he whispered. The maid nodded, tears streaming freely now. "He's been trying," she said. "He just needed someone to listen." The billionaire took his son's hand. "I'm listening," he said softly. "I'm not going anywhere." The house changed after that. The cameras were removed, one by one. The screens in the study went dark for good. In their place came something unfamiliar. Voices, laughter, awkward conversations that stumbled but kept going. The maid stayed. Not because of a raise, though he offered her one. Not because of obligation, but because she mattered. The billionaire started coming home earlier, sitting by the bed, reading, badly at first, talking about things that had nothing to do with recovery plans or progress charts. "Did you know," he said one evening, I used to be terrible at math. The maid laughed from the doorway. The boy blinked once. Slowly, weeks passed. The boy's movements were small, inconsistent, but real. A finger, a nod, a sound. Each one felt like a miracle earned through patience rather than money. One night, the billionaire stood in the hallway, listening as the maid said, "Your father's here more now. Did you notice?" The boy blinked twice. The billionaire smiled through tears. Later, alone in his study, he opened the laptop one last time. The camera feeds were gone, replaced by a blank screen. He stared at it for a long moment, then closed it gently. Protection, he realized, was never about watching for danger. It was about showing up. And the thing he feared the cameras would expose, cruelty, betrayal, harm, had instead revealed the quiet power of kindness and the cost of his own distance. In trying to protect his son with hidden eyes, the billionaire had almost missed what mattered most. Love didn't need to be monitored. It needed to be lived.